Welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages. I have another emotional book for you if you're in the mood to cuddle up and just get wrecked. That was me yesterday. I read this book in a straight shot. It's Wave by Sonali Deraniyagala, and she was an economist who ended up in the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. And this book is different than I thought it was going to be. I mistakenly thought it was just going to be her account of the tsunami. It ended up being, along with that, in a brief way, more her journey through grief, which, as bizarre as it sounds, is something I'm very kind of interested in and don't shy away from. And this book, I don't think this is giving it away because it's pretty much the premise of the book. She loses her whole family in that tsunami. Her kids, her husband, and her parents. And it's just kind of her journey afterwards, family kind of supporting her, her building back up, getting strength to kind of walk through her old life, and then the resounding sort of breakthroughs or benefits of walking through those footsteps again and coming out the other side feeling a little happiness she hadn't had before. And that just it's not that she's sitting there writing about the process of her grief. She's writing about her life, and you can kind of see the way the grief is shifting. And I really, really admired every bit of this book. Obviously can't fathom going through that, and her telling of the story was breathtaking. I remember when that tsunami hit, and I was with family at the time. We were all gathered. We'd go to Galesburg every year for like family Thanksgiving. And I couldn't get a real scope of what was going on. I just knew my aunts and uncles had kind of stopped everything, and they were watching news and everything, and just wide-eyed, and I couldn't understand the gravity of it. This one story doesn't even let me understand the gravity of it, but it was insightful, and it's not. She didn't use it in a, this is why we need to address climate change. It wasn't spun into anything like that, though that's obviously there. I guess I admire the fact that this is such an important story and such a something that's at the core of us as humans, our grief processing, that in her most trying time she could do something for others is just astonishing. And you know, this was a couple years ago. My family had 2 funerals in a week, where it was my grandpa and then my dad's best friend in a week, and the grandpa on his side. So he was in pretty rough shape, and it again does not hold a candle to this. But I remember at his friend's funeral, Kathy, a friend's wife, got up and gave this probably 7 or 8 minute eulogy that was just so beautiful, followed or preceded by 2 other eulogies that just knocked everyone down. And my dad said to me, when my mom, his wife, passed, I couldn't have got up there and said my own name. Like, I was shut down at that time. And so I don't know how much of this was written during those times versus reflective, but the level of detail makes me think maybe she was journaling. She was keeping some sort of thread alive, maybe not knowing how much this would help other people, because in the acknowledgments she does mention there's some people who really motivated her to keep going. Please get this together. You're so close, and that sort of thing. And I'm just so grateful that we have a book like this, because I don't think I think I would learn more about grief from stories like this than nonfiction self-help style books that are just books about grief. Uh, it's too personal and amorphous of a thing. Yes, there are some things in those books, like, if you're with someone who's grieving, and don't personalize it to you. Well, when I had my grief, like so there are benefits to those for sure, but it helped me to better understand how our brains can process things that are overwhelming. And that I know when, and again, this is not a comparison, but just like when I lost my mom, there are memories I don't have, and I don't think it's just because of age. I think there are times it's too much, and our brain just, in a way, turns off as a defense mechanism. And to kind of read her story that was happening in that time, to extract so much detail and be able to put it back out into the world is just breathtaking to me. And that, I mean, the level of honesty in it, and everything, I think at a certain point, if you're not worried about your kids, what they will think of it, or your husband, what he'll think of it, you have nothing to lose. As horrible as that is to say, the level of honesty on what she was feeling, what she planned to do to herself, all these sorts of things came out so wholly honest, that this book really taught me about grief. And it's something where it's not that I, a week ago was like, I need to learn more about grief. Like, I don't know enough. Like, I feel like I've had enough funerals in my life. I've been hit hard enough. I don't want to go further into it, but at the same time, I do look for when my friends are in grief, because maybe they've been to 4 funerals. Maybe I've been to 5 times that, or whatever it is. Like, I've sat with emotions where I've had friends, like, dude, I was 22 when a friend and I were going to a coworker's funeral, and he said he was real nervous, where he's like, I've never been to a funeral. You're 22? Like, I don't know how many I've been to, direct family members, and so, like, you realize that you have some sort of strength there, that you're able to help others. And so I've always kind of looked at myself as, and maybe this is super pretentious, but, there's friends who say, like, hey, we're getting like 6 people to go together on a camping trip. You think, okay, us, this couple, like, oh, that person would be good to go with us. That's a good person to have on a camping trip. Like, let's get them in the mix. Where if a friend is going through grief, I feel like in circle of friends, I might be a good one to kind of step up and help a little. I tried to do that about a year ago when my friend's mom died, and I would talk with friends, and I would just get a resounding answer from them. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't go. So I try to use the little bit of strength that I've been instilled with through the grief in my life, and I think I was better able to understand that emotion through this book, which allows me to better help other people. And I think that's one of the greatest parts of this book, and just how much it helps the world. I don't believe she's written anything else. She's fine now. She's happy. She's actually got remarried to the if you've seen the Harry Potter movies, the family that he lives with as a kid, and Dudley is his like cousin. The mother in that, what would be Harry's aunt, they ended up getting married. So kind of a happy ending in a way there for her. But yeah, this book came out in 2013. It was one of New York Times top 10 of the year. And I don't remember how it really got to me, but it was in some list, some way where it was described, where I was just like, whoa, don't not read that. Like, that's a big one. And so I'm really glad I did. I knew it was going to be kind of a heavy one. We had a snow day yesterday, and I was just like, I'm cozying up. I'm going in it. And this was a great book to read in a straight shot. There's very few books that I think I've done that with, and this is one of them. There are good breaks in it and everything. You don't have to read it in that way, but I'm really glad I did. And yeah, I'm really, really grateful that this book exists as someone who's dealt with grief, and this is a good aid or expansion to that understanding. So thank you for tuning in to another book review. If you're digging this channel at all, like you're watching right now, I would so appreciate if you would leave a comment with what video you've liked the most, or what book you're most likely to read because of a review. Something to where you can say, hey, I was watching when you asked if we're watching. But leave a comment, I would super appreciate it. Subscribe, like all the YouTube stuff. But thank you, I am so glad to be able to talk about these and get these thoughts out, you know?